In ancient Rome, brothels were frequented by a diverse clientele that spanned across various social strata, including members of the upper echelons. Unlike in some modern societies, a visit to a brothel in Rome did not inherently carry a stigma of shame. However, the reality inside many of these establishments was far from ideal. Conditions were often deplorable, characterized by poor hygiene and lacking basic amenities. Those who worked as prostitutes, particularly slaves, faced a harsh existence with little safeguard against mistreatment and exploitation. Prostitution in Rome was not limited to women. Male prostitutes were also present, providing services to both male and female patrons. In the annals of history, ancient Rome stands as a colossus known for its vast empire, monumental architecture, and profound cultural legacies. But beneath the grandeur of the Roman Colosseum and the stoic faces of marble statues lies a lesser-known yet integral aspect of Roman daily life, the world of brothels. Ancient Rome held views on sexuality that were complex and multifaceted. Unlike many modern cultures, Roman society did not uniformly stigmatize sexual practices such as visiting brothels. This open attitude played a significant role in shaping various aspects of Roman life. Brothels, or lupanaria, were as diverse as the empire itself, from the opulent establishments frequented by the elite to the squalid, cramped quarters in the alleys of Rome. These houses of pleasure formed an intrinsic part of Roman urban life. Legal and often state-owned, they stood as a testament to the normalized nature of trade in Roman society. Clientele of Roman brothels. Unlike many modern societies, prostitution in ancient Rome was not just tolerated, brothels stood as common fixtures, much like the taverns and baths. With their flickering oil lamps and suggestive graffiti, brothels were frequented by men of all social strata. From the elite patricians to humble plebeians, Roman men visited prostitutes with little fear of moral reprisal. Visiting a brothel was not a source of shame, but a commonplace, if not entirely respectable, pastime. It was a world where gender and social status blurred in the pursuit of pleasure. Ancient texts, like those of the famous Roman poets Ovid and Martial, often reference these establishments, offering a peek into the Roman psyche. They wrote candidly about the pleasures and pitfalls of love and lust, reflecting a society deeply entangled with the world of prostitution. Brothels weren't just hubs of activity, they were also social spaces. Men didn't just visit for physical gratification, but also for companionship, conversation, and even business dealings. It was a complex ecosystem where social norms were both challenged and reinforced. The conditions within these brothels were often dire. Many were crammed into dilapidated buildings, susceptible to fires or collapses. Their locations in crowded urban centers or hidden back alleys made them particularly unsafe, especially at night. Many brothels were unsanitary and lacked basic facilities. The poorer brothels, in particular, were notorious for their deplorable conditions. Though precise numbers are elusive, it's believed that tens of thousands of men and women were engaged in prostitution in Rome. Many were slaves, thrust into a life of sexual servitude with little hope of escape. For these women and men, life in a brothel was a daily struggle for survival, marred by abuse and exploitation. Female prostitutes, who formed the majority, were particularly vulnerable. For freed women, often former slaves themselves, options were limited, and some turned to prostitution as a means of survival in a society with rigid class structures. The line between voluntary and forced prostitution in ancient Rome is murky and complex. While some women may have chosen this path as the best available option in a constrained society, for many it was not a choice, but a condition imposed upon them by their circumstances. Prostitution in ancient Rome was legal, but it came with a social stigma, especially for those at the lower end of the economic spectrum. Prostitutes, known as lupae, or she-wolves, were often marginalized, their rights limited. They were required to register with the aediles, the city officials, and were subject to taxes and regulations. While the glamour of Rome's emperors and battles often dominates our view of the ancient world, the lives of these women offer a different perspective, one that speaks of resilience and survival in a world that offered them few choices. The conditions faced by prostitutes were relentlessly harsh. They were compelled to serve numerous clients daily with scant regard for their well-being or consent, stripping them of any autonomy. These establishments were rife with health hazards. The threat of sexually transmitted infections was alarmingly high, worsened by the absence of effective medical treatments or understanding of these diseases. Contraceptive methods were primitive at best, leading to unwanted pregnancies and their associated health risks. Moreover, the general lack of hygiene in brothels only heightened the risk of various infections and diseases. Violence and abuse were rampant and tragically normalized. Prostitutes, particularly those enslaved, faced constant physical and sexual abuse from clients and brothel owners, with minimal protection. Social hierarchy. In the often misunderstood world of ancient Roman brothels, a distinct and intricate social hierarchy existed among the prostitutes. This hierarchy reveals much about the values and norms of the time. At the higher end of this hierarchy were the meretrices, a term used for registered prostitutes. These women were often more than just providers of services. They were skilled in conversation, music, and could be companions to their clients. The meretrix held a somewhat more respected status, having the autonomy to register themselves with the aediles. In stark contrast stood the scorta, often referred to as streetwalkers. These women worked at the lower end of the economic spectrum, facing harsher living conditions and greater social stigma. They lacked the relative protection and status that registration provided, making their lives considerably more precarious. Then, there was the term lupa, literally meaning she-wolf. It suggested a particularly low and predatory type of prostitute. The use of this term, imbued with a sense of danger and moral depravity, reflects the harsh judgments and labels society imposed on these women. The lupanar of Pompeii. Among the many brothels that dotted the landscape of ancient Rome, one stands out for its fame and archaeological significance: the lupanar of Pompeii. This establishment, frozen in time by the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, offers us a unique window into the past. The term lupanar is Latin for brothel, a straightforward name that reflects the Romans' practical attitude towards these establishments. But the lupanar of Pompeii is more than just a historical relic. It's an emblem of ancient Roman life and culture. Excavations of this site have unveiled not just the structure, but the very essence of Roman attitudes towards society. One of the most striking features of the lupanar are its erotic paintings. These vivid frescoes depict a variety of sexual acts, serving not just as decoration but also potentially as a menu for clients. These images are explicit and unapologetic, a testament to the Romans' open attitudes towards sexuality. Architecturally, the lupanar was a two-story building with 5 rooms on each floor containing a stone bed. The lower floor was likely more expensive, accessible directly from the street. The upper floor, reached by a narrow staircase, was possibly for more modest means. This layout gives us insight into the economic dynamics at play within these brothels. But beyond its structural and artistic elements, the lupanar holds stories of the men and women who frequented it, of the lives lived within its walls. Each room and painting tells a tale of a world long gone but not forgotten, a world where the lines between public morality and private desire were drawn very differently than today. Male prostitution. Not all prostitutes were women. In the multifaceted world of ancient Rome's brothels, a surprisingly and often overlooked aspect is the gender dynamics at play. The world of paid sex in Rome was not limited to women. Male prostitution was equally prevalent and accepted. Serving both male and female clients, these men's existence highlights a more fluid understanding of sexual orientation in Roman society. Male prostitutes in ancient Rome, often referred to as delicati, were taken for granted in scholarly texts. Their existence was a well-known aspect of Roman life, and like their female counterparts, they catered to a diverse clientele. This aspect of Roman society challenged many modern perceptions about ancient practices. Homosexuality and bisexuality were relatively accepted in Roman society. The existence and patronage of male prostitutes attest to this tolerance. However, it is important to note that Roman attitudes towards these orientations were complex and varied greatly over time and across different classes. The acceptance of such a wide array of preferences and practices evolved, often influenced by the political and cultural shifts within the empire. The rise of Christianity, for example, marked a significant turn in these attitudes. The Roman story of sexuality is one of nuances, filled with contradictions and shifts that mirror the empire's tumultuous history. This is History on Fleek, and we'll see you next time.